Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Q4 2024 release webinar. I know it is 2025, everybody, but this is the webinar for Q4 2024 release. So thank you very much for joining us. We're not just doing time travel. We're going to try and help you with interesting updates on Apteco as we start 2025. I'm online to present. Mel is online to assist. She'll be monitoring the webinar and answering questions and chat to the extent we can during the webinar. And anything that you ask that we can't answer during the session, we'll come back to you on after the session. So as usual, we're going to give you an update on the Apteco software on the Q4 2024 release, but also our future plans and what's coming soon. And I always find this webinar slightly challenging because I demo everything at Apteco Live, which we held in November. Hope you enjoyed that if you were one of the people who was there or online. And so I make a determined effort to demo different things for you in this webinar. If you're interested in what we showed at Apteco Live, we have all the recordings available for you on the portal. But we've got lots going on, and starting with Orbit, we have introduced dynamic maps, so you can upload your own shapefiles through the application settings. We introduced landing pages, so that you can now run landing pages within your Apteco environment to do forms and data capture, for example, around your campaigns. We introduced new database connectors for Orbit Connect so that we can now ingest data from more places. We'll touch on all of these in a bit more detail in a moment. We've enhanced our campaign functionality in Orbit, including, excitingly, we now have live data triggers, so you can trigger campaigns as you go. We have extended the power of the segmentation tool in FastStats so that we can give more readily accessible relative reporting points, and I'll show you that during a demo today. We've extended date and date time expressions and their use in selection, so you no longer have to make virtual variables with those, giving you a slightly easier copy function. And as we've become a global business, we've become more acutely aware of all the challenges of handling users in multiple time zones, with campaigns running at different times for different users in different time zones, and the reporting of all of that, and understanding, for example, what time it was when you sent somebody an email and when did they open it. It may have an impact on your analytics. So we're adding functionality into FastStats. But we're also always improving the core engine. Our biggest system now has over 40 billion rows, 40,000 million rows of data. And so we're always working on how we improve performance. And we have a new optional performance improvement for you called Cube Caching. You can turn that on and we'll show you how. We expect it to be the default in future releases. We're also extending People Stage, particularly as we reveal People Stage functionality in Orbit Campaign. There's a new mechanism for picking up selections or picking up audiences that have waited a period in a campaign. We've got new constraints functions. We've got new ability to use Orbit audiences on a transaction table rather than on the individual table. And so you can use an Orbit audience for transactional campaigning. And we've also extended the power of our campaign optimization, previously limited to 30 campaigns. We've extended that to 50. And as always, we are maintaining our integrations. One that has just been updated in this release is for LinkedIn, and we are pushing forward with our LinkedIn integration to try to do more with that. I know those of you in a B2B context will find that useful. We've also extended our UTM Google Analytics tracking codes on Apteco email. Previously, we used the email engine to do that. We're now doing that internally. We've improved SMS opt-outs, and I'll show you more in a minute. We've increased performance of our enhanced data builder. So Designer, you might remember, has an optional enhanced data builder. It has a slightly different set of capabilities. It's the more modern data load engine and better at using the breadth of large hardware. So we've extended that, optimizing the virtual variable package and giving you a bit more control when running scripts. So lots going on. Let's learn about some of those. But can I remind you that for every release, we produce a what's new page, and you'll find that on apteco.com. We're going to actually send out this slide deck as the handout after the webinar, and you'll be able to click on the highlighted buttons variously through the deck, through the PDF, in order to link to those pages. So just remember, if you ever need to understand what we're doing, there's a what's new page for each quarterly release, and that wraps up what we've done with Orbit. We're also always updating the Help Hub, help.apteco.com. It's published continuously, and so you'll see Orbit updates there as we do our sprints. You'll see FastStats People Station Designer updates there as we do our quarterly releases. And you can visit help.apteco.com 24 hours a day to go look at that. And as announced at Apteco Live, I'm delighted to say our on-demand training courses are now live. We have 2 courses at present, the Orbit Dashboards and Audience course that I have on the screen. You can see it's made up of multiple sections, each of which you can work through in your own time. It's streamed from a platform called Vimeo, which you may know is like YouTube. And you can pay on demand for yourself, or as I joked at the conference, you can gift a course to one of your colleagues. In fact, gifting in different contexts is, I suppose, pre-purchasing, in order that one of our partners could purchase courses for users at a client organisation, for example. And our training team are working hard on further courses using our new recording studio in Warwick, and it's one of the predominant ways we expect to provide training in months and years to come, because our users are scattered across the world nowadays, and not in our time zone and not in our town to come to our wonderful training room downstairs, which actually we've now repurposed as a workshop room. So if you're interested, we still do run in-person online training, but we're going to grow the library of on-demand training courses. Do come and talk to us if you want to know more about that. So a few things from Orbit. As I demonstrated at Apteco Live, we have the CDP coming. I'm not going to show Orbit this webinar because I demonstrated all of these features at Apteco Live, and we are still, I'm delighted to say, expecting to ship our CDP version 1 with a fairly simple set of data model and identity resolution rules by the end of this month. So in our next sprint, we will be pushing out our first version CDP for you to experiment with and to use. And it has the ability to connect to these data sources. You can see the new ones, SQL Server in the cloud, for example, so you can use an Azure SQL Server instance, Snowflake and PostgreSQL, as well as our previous ability to pull files from Amazon S3 buckets and to upload files. So Connect getting more powerful and connected in the cloud. Also, as I demonstrated at Apteco Live, we have the ability to upload your own shape files. Mapping in FastStats was always a little bit of a challenge to get the shapes set up. You had to add them to the binaries that are downloaded with the launcher. No longer the case. It's far easier and more approachable now. Those of you who are Orbit administrators, simply go to the application settings area, and you'll find an intuitive process for uploading your own shape files in GeoJSON format, a modern mapping format, up to 10 megabytes. We have had a challenge at making the shapefiles fast enough, and we've tried to optimize in many different ways how those shapes are used. I think I joked at the conference that actually I had preloaded some of those maps in order to get them nice and fast for the demo. We're working on that all the time, and do let us know how you get on with uploading your own shapefiles. But if you have territories for your regions, or gravity model shapes for your stores, or sales areas, whatever, you can now upload your own shapefiles. If you want to analyze constituencies or states or counties, or whichever, it's much easier now to add your own files, and we're going to keep working on this, and you'll see these in audiences in Orbit. Also, as I showed at Apteco Live, we have our landing page builder. Landing pages allow you to present a page, and most obviously within that page you can also host an Apteco form, so you can now do data capture, and we're just working further to close the loop on that form, so that we can bring that data back into your Apteco environment through the response gatherer, so that you can do a campaign, have a beautiful landing pages with image and text and headings and all your normal branding, for example, embed a form, capture the data, and it's all in Apteco. You don't need to go and work with anyone else on your website to host the page for you any longer. Initially, when we did forms, you had to go and host them somewhere outside Apteco. Now you can do it in here. It's actually tied into the Apteco email account that you use. So if you haven't yet got an Apteco email account, do contemplate using that, and you'll get landing pages and forms as part of the solution. We're also always moving campaigning forward, making it easier to use, making it more natural to navigate. So, for example, whether it's something as simple as duplicating a campaign or reordering the sections, you can do that in Orbit campaign. And we are now getting close to the rounded multi-channel, multi-user, multi-wave, multi-branching platform that we designed from the outset. Work we're doing now, as you'll see when we show the roadmap later on, includes bringing folders into the campaign area so that you can organize your campaigns. If you start building up a big collection, then the standard presentation of the most recent campaigns sorted isn't sufficient. You might want to folder campaigns for brand A and brand B, for example, and that's work that we're looking at now, doing the design work to make a consistent foldering structure across the whole of Orbit, so that actually bringing together your campaigns in a structure, your dashboards in a structure, your audiences in a structure, looking at workspaces. So we'll see it first in campaigns, but we'll make sure that's coherent across the whole application. And a new capability since Apteco Live is the ability to trigger the execution of a campaign based on live data. Some of you will know live data is the mechanism by which we can monitor the presence of data in an external data store. So we can look at an external data store to find new data arriving in that data store, for example. And now we can trigger a campaign, as you can see in the screenshot, when you publish a campaign with a live data audience at the start of the campaign. You can determine that it should run either now, at a date, or live data triggered. And if it's live data triggered, then the arrival of new data in your external store can trigger the whole campaign. Previously, and at Apteco Live, I described how we could use triggered events within a campaign. So that capability was already live. We could take, for example, the arrival of an order record, and we could use that to trigger a section in the campaign to acknowledge that order, for example, or to route someone out of the campaign. You don't want to campaign any further if they've just done what you treat as the goal for that campaign. I remember we have goal measurement now on campaigns, as we saw briefly at Apteco Live. We can show your progress towards your goal over the time period you've allowed. So again, just emphasizing really that use of live data audiences, in this case, in a campaign, allows you to trigger that campaign and flow those people through. And live data has a 1 minute granularity. So within 1 minute of a record arriving in an external store, we can now trigger the execution of a campaign, and those people will start their journey through that campaign at that point. Remember, live data expects the identifiers on those individuals, so a customer number, prospect number, to be established in the live data store so that we can keep a comms history. So when that person arrives, perhaps in the FastStats data store that night, they have the same number, we can link it all together. That's live data. Now, just a reminder that if you are interested to try Orbit, particularly if you're not an Orbit user, we have 3 different ways that you can try Orbit. You can bring your own data, BYOD, and connect your Salesforce data into the system. So we can, in fact, I think we presented that slightly wrong now, Reddit. The intention there is you can bring your own data and do your own trial. Then we can do a Salesforce trial where we can upload data from Salesforce. So if you've got a Sales Cloud instance, for example, we can bring that into Apteco, or we have our own demonstration data. So 3 different ways. Bring your own data, load it up, and we'll help you build that on an Apteco Cloud instance. Pull data from Salesforce, or use our demonstration data. And we've got some nice examples now where we can build systems that have no personally identifiable information, but you can still do useful dashboards. And that's a mechanism we're demonstrating to not-for-profits and charities, where a simple history of donor ID, donation date, and donation value allows us to create interesting models of segmentation, up grades and downgrades and churn, for example. And I'm going to touch on some of that in a moment. Right, so I demonstrated most of that at Apteco Live. This time I'm going to concentrate a bit on FastStats, just to have something different. When you get the deck, you can go look at the release notes, some of which we've paraphrased here, obviously. First thing I will show you is the new relative reporting points in the segmentation tool. So the segmentation tool allows you to monitor and track and report on individuals within your database migrating from one segment to another. And if you've got a segment hierarchy, you can see who's come up that hierarchy, gone down that hierarchy, how's their life cycle stage, for example. And we've always done that previously using fixed time points. So 1st of January, 1st of February, 1st of March, fixed in time, for example. What we've introduced now is the ability to do relative reporting periods. And you probably know, if you're a FastStats user, that there's lots of power in FastStats to select on relative date rules. What we've done with the segmentation tool is allow you to express your reporting points as relative to now, and then we can create rules directly that represent that. It makes it much more flexible. It means that if you drag a selection off a segmentation tool, it will have embedded in it knowledge about how that reporting rule, that date rule, should be used. And that will allow you to reuse that selection without needing to intervene to change the dates. It'll work on, the start of the last month, for example. So more powerful, easier to create. As I joked earlier, we're also learning about date times in different time zones with users around the world. Our team in Australia had a bit of a puzzle trying to understand campaigning reports when we were showing them in UTC, or what we know as GMT. And yet they were 11 hours offset from that. And it makes your head hurt when you have to try and work out what time does that mean we actually sent the campaign or got the response, for example. Well, we're doing various things. So here you can see date and date time expressions can now be used directly in a selection. So you can, for example, as in the screenshot, do a date shift on a date time that's been recorded in order to put it into your own time zone, and then select on it. And it's more intuitive to say, you know, I want records that were updated after 3 p.m. when it's in your own time zone. But I'll show you some more of that in a minute. We have the ability to now copy results straight out of a data grid. So previously we copied the whole row. You can now copy individual cells. And in fact, the thing that I was going to show you, and I realized I've animated a bit back to front, we also now have the ability to convert from one time zone to another. So we've built in a new function, date time convert, that will allow you to convert, in this case, from UTC to the time in Frankfurt in Germany or anywhere else in Australia. Although I've discovered this morning there's a gotcha, which I'm going to demonstrate to you just so you understand it. There's also some enhancements to some of the other functions. Selected days and selected hours have both been improved with exclusion lists, for example. And then we have the performance improvement that I mentioned at the beginning. We've extended the caching mechanism that has for many years cached selections, and the bitmap representation of which rows were selected as a result of that selection being applied. We have now extended that right at the bottom level of the engine to cache cubes. Now, cubes, as you can see if you read the text on screen, are used for all sorts of things. Actually, behind the scenes, a Venn diagram is done as a cube. A chart is a type of cube. And so we're actually getting the benefit of cube caching in all sorts of parts of the application. And if one user makes a request and another user has the same request, you know, perhaps for a different reason, working together somehow, then we will get the benefit of the cache hit. Of course, if you go back and request the same result again, you'll get the benefit. And it's all carefully policed around use of date time variables, which obviously time passes, and session updates and data updates all taken account of. So at the moment we have this turned off by default. We can now turn that on so that we can benefit from that cube caching. So if you're interested, talk to the tech services team and they can help you turn that on. So let's go and have a bit of a look at fast stats. And you might have noticed, if you have upgraded, that the front page is different. And that is because we realized it's difficult sometimes to get all the messaging through about what Apteco is doing. And a great place to see it is on the front page of fast stats. If you're using fast stats, you can see we've given you a click button to go and read more about our release notes, etc. We still have the traditional presentation of what's in the last 4 releases. You can scroll through that, but we will continue updating this front page just to make it easier for you to access what we can do with the platform. If I click on here, you can see we get to what's new in Apteco. It's actually running a little embedded browser. Let's just go and log on. So now you're all reliant on me remembering my password, which fortunately I can. And we will go have a look at a couple of things in fast stats. I think the first thing I was going to show you was a segmentation. Let's go and do that. So here's fast stats in all its glory. So let's have a segmentation tool. And you may know, and I'm not going to try and teach you all the basics of segmentation, that we give the segmentation tool some segment rules, and those segment rules I have pre-created to avoid you having to watch me create them. And I've done some very simple and easy to understand rules where I have, for example, high frequency, high value, high frequency, low value, low frequency, high value, and low frequency, low value. Did you notice that I clicked on them in a particular sequence? That is the sequence that they will be added when I drop them into the selections tab. So high frequency, high value was the first one I clicked on. Low frequency, low value was the last one that I clicked on. And in fact, I should just show you if I open one of these, just to emphasize the point. These are selections that have a date rule in them. They must have. That's what the segmentation tool is about. It looks at the date rules embedded in the criteria and runs them at different dates, different points in time, in order to show the effect of who's in each segment at the date in time. So these are intended as transactional rules looking at a date and time. And in this case, I'm using simple RFE. You could do other things to identify them. Now, I'm not going to go through all the wonderful power of the segmentation tool, but I'm going to show you that we now have a new choice. So this is the sort of reporting that we had before, fixed time points. We now have, fixed and elapsed, and now we have relative time points. And I can say that I want to reference to a point in time that will move. So I could say, for example, I want to look at a point in time this year versus last year versus whatever, and all the standard fast stats variations of those. So right down to hours and minutes. So if you're dealing with temporal data, you might be looking at movement over quite short reporting periods. Let's use months, and I can say that I want to go backwards by 4 months, and you can see that I'm starting with this month backwards by 4 months up to this month backward by nothing. Then you can see the date rules that are being generated at the bottom here. It will show me, if I change this number, you can see how many reporting periods. These are quite simple concepts now, really, aren't they? Because we've just got 1 month at a time picking it up. You can report on the granularity, so you can report on every month, or you could do every 3 months, for example. Yeah, I think probably you've got the idea. If you experiment a little bit, you'll see how that is created. And if we now go to look at our time report, our migration report, let's just update that, and we will look at. In fact, I should have picked the time report. So you can see that's doing the migration. Let's just do the simpler version to start with. We can see with those time points, we can see who is in high frequency, high value at each of our different points in time. Though this month backwards by 4 months, there were 209 people in there. It went up to 219 and then has slipped away, and coincidentally it's ended up back at the same number. If we take another one, so this is our high frequency, low value, started with 483, grew to 491, ended up growing up to 523. And the important point is these easy to understand reporting points are also embedded. So if I take this group, 523. If I drag it off and create a selection for it, you can see the selection picking up the RFE clauses of the hierarchy of segments. But embedded in here is the understanding that we're looking at this month. So I dragged from the rightmost column, that is this month. If I dragged from here, we know that it's this month back by 4. So we're going to go back and pick up that criteria. So you can then save that, you can rerun it, and it will automatically move as the dates move forward. Hope that is clear. We're just looking at how can we make a little bit more visible the relative rule that has been dragged. You know, at the moment, the default name is just that we've dragged it, and we don't put any notes on it, for example. I was speaking to Chris earlier about how to demo this, and we were saying maybe we'll put some of that so it's a bit more visible, easy to use, and more powerful. Right, the next thing I was going to do is date times. Let's just do an expression for you. And I will just show you that there are lots of lovely expressions for dates and date times. There's so many of them, they're subdivided into categories. I'm going to pick up date time convert. I'll warn you now, I've got a gotcha in here, but I'm going to explain it. Let's just say we want to look at our web visits table. This is a lovely FastStats system that is built every single day. This was updated at 1:15 this morning, UK time. And let's have our web visit date and time. And I'm going to convert that from UTC into the time in Frankfurt, for example. These are recognized standard time zone descriptors. They're not created by Apteco, and they're not embedded in the Apteco software. And that's actually why we get this behavior. You can see that my expression hasn't worked. I've got a blank, and I was puzzled over that this morning until we went and had a look at the warning here. And in fact, I don't know if you spotted it, we've got a warning balloon in the bottom right-hand corner. And if I go view the debug log, I was encouraging you to do this all the time, but I thought I might as well share it. Look at this, time zone database not available, date time convert function cannot be used. That was the warning that we got. And it turns out that different versions of Windows have got this time zone in them, time zone database in them, and others have not. So we're going to go and do a little bit of research as to who has it, who doesn't have it, how to get it. You know, we've tried 2 machines, one has it and one doesn't, and so we're going to find out a bit more. We'll post that somewhere so that you understand when that function is available. We've correctly detected that the time zones are not available, and so we've said we can't use it. That's why we got the warning. So I might have to use a different expression, and in this case, let's do date time shift, which is another one, and I'm going to take the same variable, and I'm going to shift it, if I click in here, by 1 hours, plural, that's the word. Well, actually, I think hour would do, but if we execute that, you can see that my web visit times have moved forward from, in the first example, 8:44 to 9:44, and I could say time in Frankfurt, I should say visit time in Frankfurt. And what I was going to illustrate is if I just make a new selection, I can take that expression and drop it straight into a selection, and all of my lovely date handling functionality is now available in here. So I could create a time rule, you know, from, what was my example earlier, after 3 p.m. maybe, so from 1500 to midnight, And I don't need to make a virtual variable. Hooray! Everybody who has ever struggled with lots and lots of virtual variables and the refresh time that they bring, no longer. You can now just use dates and date times in expressions. Right, let's have a look at one of those expressions. Let's put one of those visits. Let's put a data grid on here. And we will have a data grid actually of web visits. I've chosen people who have web visits, but hey ho, you get the idea. Let's have our web visit URN, our URL, our web visit time. So each of these people should have at least one visit after 3 p.m. We can best fit one of those columns. So there's a lovely, great big column. Maybe, just maybe, I want to go and pick off one of these URLs. In fact, if you're a real FastStats expert, you can turn this into a hyperlink field anyway, but I haven't done that. So very many years ago, I created some crazy domain names. I'm not sure this one, reallyexpensivetrips.com, is going to sell much, but if I want to, I can now copy that cell content, and just to illustrate, if I paste that in there, I've just got the one field. So previously you got the whole row, could be a little bit fiddly to deal with, and no longer. Right, I think that is enough messing about. Hopefully it's helpful. You know, I've just tried to show different stuff than we showed at the user group. Let's see whether any of that is any help, because with a fair wind, Mel will be able to share a poll with you, which should appear on screen, and hopefully you will be able to anonymously record which of those things are useful for you. And we try to ask you this after each demo. I mean, we could put a poll up of just the things we've talked about, but after a demo, it's nice to know what is useful for you. And I can't see the results, but maybe Mel will share those, and we'll see how many people found that helpful. And I can't see the results. So I'm guessing you've had a chance to submit your poll. Hopefully you did find that helpful. Well, we will see those results afterwards. I know Teams will share that detail with us. Okay, let's press on. So a few updates from PeopleStage. So those of you who are using PeopleStage will see we've got a new section in the library under audiences, and these are two new types of selection that allow you to identify people who have waited a certain amount of time. So campaign wait will pick up people who've been in the whole campaign at any stage, anywhere in the campaign, for more than a certain amount of time. So you could go and move them out of the campaign or put them into a different message. And a pool wait is a new presentation of what we've done before as a pool journey that allows you to pick off people who've been in the preceding pool for a certain amount of time. So you can, again, route them differently in order to move them forward. We've also extended PeopleStage. Now, I've put a screenshot in here just to help you understand it. Those of you who use PeopleStage, you're used to the sort of flow diagram shown on the left side of that campaign, the once in a lifetime campaign. You may be less familiar, I think I have shown them before, less familiar with the fact we can now have separate standalone processes defined within the campaign. These you define most easily as orbit triggered events. And they appear in the PeopleStage campaign as a separate area. You can see it's called a process. It's got an audience and a message. A message is a content and delivery step, you may remember. What's new in this release is we can now apply process constraints. So if you close the lid on the process, you'll get the option that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, where you can now add a contact strategy. So one message per month through this process, for example, or an instance constraint, which says you're only allowed to go through here twice. You can't get this message more than twice ever, for example. So a new constraint on top of a standalone process that sits within a campaign. And earlier I said that we're getting close to having the fully rounded campaign mechanism that we aspire to. This is part of it, shown in both PeopleStage and in Orbit, the ability to have separate campaign processes, and it's what modern marketing's about. You have to be multi-channel. You have to react to who's communicating with you, who's interacting with you. Let's listen. Let's react to that person straight away, and you can build that infrastructure all in Apteco. Also, if you do transactional campaigning, by which I mean you send communications where there's more than one message to the same inbox in the same iteration of a campaign. The classic example is someone who insures two separate cars. They've got two policies. They both need correspondence to offer renewal of both policies, but think subscriptions or gifts or anything that some one person can maintain multiple of. Previously, you could define those in PeopleStage. Now you can define them in Orbit, and an Orbit audience selected on a transaction table will now appear appropriately in PeopleStage. So if you are creating segments and target groups and cohorts in Orbit, we're just filling out, making it easier for you to use in PeopleStage, and you'll see that just becoming more rounded, as I've alluded to. I already mentioned, I think, that you can now extend the number of campaigns that you can optimize. You can use campaign optimization in a variety of ways. For example, you could have multiple campaigns available and use a model variable to determine which campaign appears most suitable for a particular recipient. You then optimize across those campaigns and start them in the flow of the highest modeled campaign result. So you can have lots of customer journeys ready to go and score each of those, and then use optimization to pick the highest scoring for a particular individual. I've also already mentioned UTM codes. It's one of my pet facts that UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Module. Urchin was the company that Google bought a long time ago and created Google Analytics. So if you wondered why they're called UTM, it was Urchin what did it. And UTM codes are now more powerful and delivered by Apteco inside the platform. We've also done more work on SMS opt-outs so that you can, first of all, define more keywords as opt-out keywords, so perhaps in your own language or different terminology to suit your sector or your client's sector, for example. And we've also allowed you to determine whether an SMS is contractual, in which case opt-outs won't be used because you're working on the basis of contractual rather than promotional. All part of the same thing. Right, Designer, few improvements. We can now run more sort parallelism in the enhanced data builder, so you can use the breadth of servers. We've optimized the virtual variable package, which goes and collects virtual variable definitions, pulls them down to the process that's building your new database, and creates those. We've made that more optimal when you're specifying a folder of variables that you want to collect. And you can now force Designer to ignore errors if you're running scripts. Right, let's move on. You've seen this slide before. The links will be live in the handout we send you, so you can go look at our ideas or wish list portal. You can email wishes@apteco.com. You can put your wishes in. You can see our roadmap. I'm going to show you a screenshot of it in a minute, but it's live. You can look at our What's New page, or you can see our product milestones. So lots of information. Two levels of roadmap detail, epics and features. Epics are the top level things. Features are the detail. Our campaign team have clearly been busy putting lots of epics into the roadmap, which looks great. Well done, those guys. But you can always drill through any of these. Top left-hand corner, you can see CDP version 1 is next. That's in 2 to 6 weeks, that first column. And so reading down that first column, you can see all the things that are imminent. We've had a bit of a gap, actually, because of Christmas being on time this year. We scheduled a gap between sprints. And so actually we're doing some kind of behind the scenes maintenance, architectural work. For example, on Orin, we've done lots of work behind the scenes on the architecture and training data for Orin. Still anticipating Orin's release in the end of this quarter. You can see that in the middle, in the Analyze Soon quadrant, the Gen AI Assistant. And actually, it says there tier 1 capabilities, which is knowledge about the platform. We're working hard on tier 2 capabilities, which is knowledge about your data. And as you can see, looking towards the right-hand side, we've got 2 to 6 weeks, 2 to 6 months, and then later. And later is other things. There is, in fact, inside Apteco, a further set of requirements, which are the kind of backlog, which are longer term, which are not yet emerged, and which we look at when you put a wish in. And so we start building up that backlog data. I'm not going to ask you to read this, but this is the detailed features of the epics that we were just looking at. And it gives you an indication of all the work that our fantastic product teams are doing, well, supported by all our other fantastic teams, of course, but lots of feature flow. One of the amazing things over the last year is the amount of functionality that we've shipped and which we're continuing to ship. And our strategy right now, beginning of Q1, deliver what we've promised. We're working hard on all the things that you saw me talk about, and you saw at the Apteco Expo at the conference. We're working on delivering those on the timetable we said, with the functionality that we said, not leaving you hanging, but delivering what we said. So if you're interested, log on to the Apteco portal. You can go find your way to resources, and in there you'll find the roadmap. And each of these blue text items, you click on it, has editorial text behind it. And sometimes it's the same summary, but you'll find more detail if you're interested. So we talked and demoed Apteco SMS. It's actually available now, not just coming soon. And we demoed it at Apteco Live. I didn't attempt to gather your SMS numbers for this webinar, but we know that we can send SMS messages at a local rate internationally. So it's a powerful integrated mechanism. We've got our first commitments coming in around Apteco SMS now since the conference, and we're just working to update the portal so that you can get prices. But talk to your partner or get your partner to talk to our partner team, and we can help you with pricing on that. And then this looks like a rather a set of small print, doesn't it? And it is really, but we are introducing a new software license, replacing the end user license agreement that we have used for many years. The Apteco software license intentionally splits out all of the sort of legal liability, terms that your organization agrees with Apteco from the much simpler, easier to digest terms that you as a user are asked to contemplate. We now will ask the organization to agree the fundamentals of the relationship, the liabilities, for example, and commitments between Apteco and the organization. And then each user is presented with a much simpler set of bullet points. For example, don't share your user. You're responsible for data that you use and that you share through the orbit sharing mechanism, etc. So we've tried to simplify it. And I'm sure you, like me, have at times scrolled through a great big list of legal terms and accepted them at the bottom. You press the accept button on the sort of yeah, whatever basis, which frankly isn't a very sound legal relationship, is it? And so, although that type of click wrapper is predominant in software delivery, Apteco's trying to change the mold, make it clearer for the procurement and purchasing team. They do the legal work. The users are then only required to acknowledge that they're using licensed software. Now, we are introducing this from 1st of April this year. You can sign up at any point, and it will also include terms and conditions around our additional services. So as we've introduced email and SMS, and we've already got chargeable Microsoft Bing mapping, for example, those things will be wrapped into your Apteco software license as additional terms for the services from Apteco that you will use. I think it's fair to say none of this reduces your rights or changes your stance with Apteco. You know, effectively, we've just taken the end user license agreement, split it into two parts, clarified it and updated it, and made it easier for general users to just see the stuff that's relevant for them, and for procurement teams to see the stuff that's relevant for them. And that central license, we don't expect to update, from year to year. It's the kind of core of the relationship, and will only change infrequently. Right, few upcoming events. Fundraising Institute of Australia, if you're one of our Australian clients, if you're a not-for-profit, and particularly if you're a member of the FIA, we will be there. We'll be showing our fantastic no PII donor churn dashboard and other techniques and case studies around not-for-profit. If you are not in Australia and can't justify the trip, it's obviously a grand holiday if you can justify it, then you might go to the Webwinkel Wachtdagen, beginning of April in Utrecht, and this is an e-commerce show in effect. Apteco Benelux will be exhibiting at the show, so come and join us there. Utrecht is a fantastic university city with, I believe, the world's biggest cycle store, which I have visited, and it's a thing of amazement. Double decker doesn't really get it. I mean, it's double decker and about the size of a train station. We will be at the Confed Expo. So if you work in healthcare, public sector, or private, social care, primary care, secondary care, we'll be exhibiting there. And if you followed West Streeting and Keir Starmer yesterday talking about sovereign data, statutory data, government data, health data, it's all stuff that we can process in the Apteco platform, and which our experience in healthcare will assist with. So, for example, we have a 1 billion row data set of GP prescriptions that's loaded into Apteco, and we can use that for managed health communications alongside managed treatment programs to improve the support for patients and citizens. And we'll be exhibiting at Confed. And rather remarkably, at exactly the same time, on the other side of the world, we will be at Social West in Calgary, Canada's biggest digital marketing event, where we have a speaking gig, and we'll be supporting our business over in Calgary. So wherever you fancy holidaying, people, there's an Apteco event to be there as an excuse. Right, Mel, can I ask you to please do our feedback poll? And I can see the poll, but I can't see the results. So I'll give it a few minutes and see what happens. It looks like it is anonymous. Looks like my screen sharing has flipped for some reason. So let me just go back to sharing my screen. And I will assume that Mel has allowed that long enough. As I say, I can't see the results with the tinge. Oh, I can. I can this time. Thank you, Mel. Marvellous. Some people found it useful. No one is asking for that hour back. That is always my judge of a successful webinar. If no one's saying that was a waste of time, then we're doing okay. And I think I'm going to give you 5 minutes of your time back because I'm going to finish by saying thank you very much for attending. I'm James Alty, founder and MD of Apteco. You can reach me through all of those various different channels. Thank you for sharing this hour with us. Rather different from our normal sort of Orbit end-to-end demo. We'll be back to that in the next quarter, but that's the end of the Q4 2024. That's last year, folks. Release webinar. Have a good day, and if you have any questions from this, either we'll have answered them during the call or we'll answer them now. Thank you.